Welcome to Murder and Everything Else. My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl, and Joy and I are two very old friends who love to talk about murder and everything else.
Cheryl, I just have to share this with you and all the listeners.
Okay.
I don't know what is happening, but I am so gassy right now. I mean, I'm not kidding you. It started yesterday morning and it's been 2 days, and it's not just like a little bit of like, it's like a full, I sound like a balloon that's being deflated. I don't know what's happening. I don't know if I ate something or drank something, but it's just out of control.
Oh, yeah. You guys we're going to spare you from hearing. I had the pleasure of hearing it because
these high-powered microphones are amazing, by the way. They can pick up a lot of stuff.
Yes, they can.
And I mean, you gotta love technology, but like I'm gonna put it out there, like I have not changed my diet in any way, or my exercise routine or my sleep schedule. So I ask you, what do you possibly think could like, I mean, I do know that we have a full moon right now. Like, do you think?
Oh, God.
And I, I mean, I know sometimes that area of your body is called to as like the moon. So like, does it have something to do with like the tides or something?
Oh, I have a question for you that it might be linked to, because you said you're not eating any different, you're not sleeping any differently, you're not, what was the other one? Exercise. Okay. Are you pooping well?
Oh, yeah, totally
Okay.
fine.
Because I remember my doctor saying that if you're gassy, it could be that you're not eliminating completely and properly.
No, there's nothing going on in the poop department. I don't know. It's a mystery. But I'm here to tell you that I'm still the same happy Joy, just a little gassy. So, and the other thing is, it's not stinky.
Well, thank God for that.
You know, right?
It's usually the silent ones that are killers.
No, there's nothing silent going on over here.
No, but I'm saying it's usually silent and deadly, or it's loud and has no smell.
Yeah, loud and packs no punch.
Oh God. Oh, and on that note,
I just have a great update for you guys, all of our listeners out there. We want to say thank you. While we're recording this, we quietly crossed over the 4,000 all-time listen mark. And so congratulations to us and to you, Cheryl, and to me, Joy.
Thank you, listeners.
Yep, I'm so excited. We're nearing the end of our second year of doing this podcast. The first year we hit 1,000 listens. And before the end of year 2, we've hit 4,000 listens. So we've more than doubled our listens.
And
I'm here to tell you that at least half of those listens are me and Cheryl.
No, this is not true. So thank you, everyone, because that's really an accomplishment. We are so happy about that.
Yep. Oh. Also, a couple weeks ago, I mentioned I'd start taking a new medication. Just a small update that is going well. And so, no change.
Maybe that's where the fart's coming from.
That's where the gassy's coming from. Yeah. I don't know.
Oh,
anyway, Cheryl,
if it's a side effect, maybe.
Yeah, that's right. Because I don't know if that's going to work for me. So anyway, Cheryl, you got any updates for us?
I do. I think people have been probably wondering, inquiring minds want to know what the scorpion kill count is. I have to tell you that since the weather has cooled off, and I did read this because I was going out of my mind with the heat and the scorpions, and it did say that when it cools down, they will seek shelter somewhere else, and it'll be in your house. what I
God.
read is what I read is when it cools down and it's cold outside, they tend to come inside. So that was not comforting at all. But all I can say is it's really nice to go out in the dark in my backyard and have to wear a robe, first of all, but not to see any scorpions. I did see a couple like a month or so ago, and you know what? I decided live and let live as long as they stay where they are. I mean, before I was hunting them down. Yeah. So anyway, I just thought people were probably wondering. I'm sure
So
people were
what you're
on the
saying,
edge.
what you're saying is the hunter is now the hunted.
Oh God, no, stop.
That's what, you know what?
Anyway,
Whenever you kill a bug or step on an insect or something, or swat a mosquito, or use your slipper to kill a spider or something, you're supposed to say, be a Buddha, so that you don't have bad karma later on, because insects and bugs are also living, breathing human being. I mean, not human beings, but living, breathing beings. So you have to tell them, release them to be a Buddha, so that you don't carry that bad juju onto yourself.
well, what if it's too late? What do you say? Be a Buddha?
Be a Buddha.
Okay. Well, it's too late for me. I've murdered. You know what's so funny? I listened
Well,
to
before you go to bed, just repeat on loop like a mantra: be a Buddha, be a Buddha, be a Buddha. And then you'll be covering all those scorpions you've already exterminated.
Oh, I'd have to say that for several nights in a row for several months. But you know what came to my mind because I watch all of these murder trials. In murder trials, they usually um, will have a medical examiner on the stand, and he or she will tell you what the cause of death was and the manner of death. And I thought about it yesterday, and I had to chuckle because the cause of death for these scorpions was shovels. The cause was a shovel, and the manner of death was homicide.
God. Well, just so you guys know, if there was any question about how things are going with the scorpions, you're now informed. Although
You
I
can
got to
sleep
tell
at
you,
night.
no one was filling our email inbox with questions about the scorpions.
Yeah,
So
I'm
you can
sure there
rest.
was at least. I'm sure
You
there was at least one person was keeping them up
Yeah,
at night.
you can
Now they-
rest easy, Cheryl.
Yes, yes.
Well,
Thank you.
roaring on to shout outs, guys. I just have to say, for those of you who've been listening for a while, I love fashion. I really, really love fashion. I always have loved fashion, but as I get older, I really just love like looking at fashion. I love fashion trends. I love when seasons change and styles change. And I have to just shout out Zara. It's a Spanish company. They sell clothing, purses, shoes, jewelry, eyeglasses. They have a home line. You can go look online. Um, but their stuff is just so on point. It's all really beautiful. It's at a fraction of the cost that you would pay, like, say, something you see on a runway. So, but of course, it costs more than if you were to buy it at, like, I don't know, Marshall's. So, but it's just great stuff. And some of the stuff, I have some pieces from Zara that I've been wearing for more than 10 years. So anyway, shout out Zara. And then the other shout out I have is for this drink called Delta Spirits. It's a cannabis infused cocktail, not overly sweet, and it's like a soda water, but you have to mix it with something a little sweet, so like a diet soda, excuse me, regular soda. It's delightful. And in less than 20 minutes, you'll be as high as a kite.
Oh gosh.
I mean, ha ha high as a kite.
Oh boy.
Anyway, Cheryl, you got any shout outs?
My shout out is to Doreen. Doreen, you are the winner for agreeing that Chalk from the Golden Bachelorette has crazy eyes. Yes, you will get a murder and everything else at
She
Gmail.
already has one. She already has
You get a
one.
mug. Okay.
You get a mug. You get a mug. You get a mug.
Okay, so I had to, you guys, Joy didn't see it. She didn't understand what we were talking about. So I took my phone and I played my iPad and I queued it up to one of the crazy eye moments and I videoed it for her and sent it to her. And what's your verdict, Joy? Did you see what we were talking about?
I don't feel like he has crazy eyes.
You don't see in those glimpses, those moments where I pointed
No,
out to you. Oh,
I
okay.
don't.
Well, Doreen and I have a special. We have a special
Connection.
gift. No, we have a special. We have a gift. You know, there's mediums and psychics, and we are crazy eye detectives.
Yeah, whatever.
Oh, that made me so happy though, because he would do stuff with his eyes that creep me out. And so
That's
I'm
funny.
so
I
glad
said
that
to
somebody.
Doreen, I go, Cheryl says that he has crazy eyes. And she goes, I totally agree. I'm like, what?
Oh, thank you,
I was
Doreen. You
blown
validated me.
away. I was like, come on.
Thank you for validating me, Doreen. It's
I
all I
like
look for in
chalk.
life is
I like
validation.
chalk.
No, I'm not saying I
Anywho,
like him, but I think he's a werewolf or something.
a werewolf.
Oh God.
Yeah, Cheryl thinks he's gonna go like sideways on us. But
Mark my
I
words.
I guess we will see.
Yep.
Well, guys, this week we are headed in a completely different direction. We are headed away from murder, but so that means that I get to drive the train today. However, we're going to do
Right
a
off the
couple.
tracks.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to do a couple of fun stories that I saw on TikTok. And just a little bit of backstory here. Um, we have a TikTok channel. We're not real active on TikTok, just like we have an Instagram account. We're not that active. A Facebook, it's like you get the picture. And it's because we're running this, so we're driving this train, me and Cheryl. Okay. Sometimes I get to be the engineer, sometimes she gets to wear the engineer's hat. And sometimes one of us has to sit behind the engineer, and sometimes you get the picture. Okay. We're the whole show. Okay. We got no production team. We got no fancy schmancy like makeup person. We got nobody giving us lines in a earpiece. So
Thank God.
that's why our TikTok is pretty lackluster. But that all aside, in order to have a TikTok account, I had to download TikTok on my phone. And I'm just here to tell you that it is a huge time waster. And also, it's very expensive because there's something called TikTok Shop, which, if you don't know
Oh,
what that is,
that's right.
well, I can walk you
Oh
through it because I
God.
know what it is and I know everything that's for sale on it. And I also can tell you that you can use Rakuten to buy stuff on the TikTok shop so you get kickbacks from Rakuten. So it's like a win-win, win-win, lose-lose, lose-lose-lose. Lose-lose money, lose-lose time, win-win shit that comes in the mail, and win-win fun videos. But I stumbled on this story. I'm going to talk about two stories, and they stumbled on both of them on TikTok. And they've gone viral, obviously, because that's basically what TikTok's all about. Like, you put a good story up there, it goes viral. So the first story is from the Associated Press and TikTok, obviously. But I stumbled on a girl who's being interviewed, and she's talking about how she was abducted as a little girl. So I did some digging, and what happened is this. There is a fire that ravages a home and guts the second floor bedroom where a couple's 10-day-old daughter by the name of Delamar is sleeping. So the investigators believe that a family acquaintance stole this baby, Delamar, who's 10 days old, from her crib, set the fire to cover the crime, and raised the little girl as her own. So the little girl is now an adult. She looked like she was in her 20s. And she's talking about this experience that she had. So, and of course, it sparked my interest. It's so crazy So the authorities presume that the infant perished in the blaze. Remember, she's only 10 days old. This happened in 1997, and it was at a Philadelphia home owned by the Cuevas family. And it was sparked by a home rigged extension cord connected to a space heater. I got to tell you, Cheryl, I have a space heater. I only run it when I'm in the room that it's running in, and I unplug it. I don't turn it off. I unplug it when I'm
I
done
get it.
because
Yeah.
I am so paranoid about space heaters and fires. And also, when I was a teenager, my younger brother set fire to the house 2 times. So I am super paranoid of house fires. That's a
Oh my
whole different,
God.
those are 2 stories for a whole different day. But anyway, the fire was,
Fires. Oh, yeah, no, can I just say fires scare me to death, and space
yeah.
heaters. I totally concur because space heaters, they just make me very nervous. And also, you and I talked about this. I will not leave my dryer running when I leave the house. I'll shut it off if I
Oh.
leave and it's not done yet. I'll pause it or shut it off and
Well,
finish drying it and
our
open that.
our guy who repaired ours said that all of the modern day dryers have a heat element that the machine will shut off before it catches on fire, he said.
I don't trust that. What if
Yeah,
that malfunctions?
yeah, true.
It's not worth it. It makes me so nervous. Anyway,
Anyway,
proceed.
the fire was put out in 10 minutes, but Delamar's room was gutted, and investigators concluded that the infant's body must have been consumed by the intense heat and flames. Again, she's a newborn, right? So the chances of her surviving fire like that, I mean, and
What
also
do
she
you-
was probably really tiny.
So the bones were
Well, I don't know. The investigators just concluded that she was consumed by the intense heat and flames.
hmm.
Anyway, the mom went inside the room and looked in the crib, and the baby wasn't there, adding that the window was inexplicably open, though it was a cold winter evening. Police and fire officials that night told the hysterical mother that maybe it was her nerves.
What was her nerves?
So she went in the room and looked in the crib, apparently before she ran out of the house on fire. She said that the baby wasn't in there, but they're saying maybe it was her nerves. Isn't that interesting?
It
Anyway,
was her nerves that made her think the baby wasn't there?
or that made her think she went into the room. I don't know.
I'm
But
sorry. I'm totally lost. She went. What? I'm here to ask the
okay,
questions the listeners are probably asking. She
so
went inside the room
when the
before
fire
the
started, the
started.
mom went into the room and looked in the crib, and the baby wasn't there.
Okay. So
But
she
the
left.
window was open and it was a cold winter's evening. Remember, it's Pennsylvania. So
Okay.
it gets pretty damn cold in Pennsylvania.
No, I got that. I got
So
that. Fire. She went to
when the
check on the
fire
baby.
is
The baby
ravaging
was
the
gone.
upstairs, the police and fire officials told the hysterical mother who's freaking out about the fire and the baby upstairs that maybe it was her nerves, that maybe she thought she saw the baby wasn't there, or maybe she thought she went into the room. I don't know. That she just said, quote unquote, maybe it was my nerves.
Okay. Okay.
So Cuevas, who's 31 at the time, said she was also suspicious because Correa, 42, had announced she was pregnant during a visit shortly after Delamar's birth. Correa is the woman who kidnapped Delamar. And according to Cuevas, Correa abruptly ceased contact after the fire.
Who is Correa to them? To her.
She's a cousin.
Okay.
Cuevas, who speaks very little English, said she went to a birthday party on January 24th. It was 6 years later, so it would have been 2003. She instantly recognized a child at the birthday party as being her daughter. She was fixated on it, and it was unclear who had brought the child. the child's name was Aaliyah, and it was unclear if she came with her mother, if she came with an auntie, if she came with a grandparent, if she was just, you know how sometimes parents drop kids off at a party.
So Correa just suddenly, this is her cousin, right? Oh, she ceased contact after the fire.
Abruptly
So then
ceased
she
contact.
shows up at this party, and Correa's like, "Oh, I have a 6-year-old daughter." And
Well,
Cuevas
it's
is like,
unclear who brought the girls, so she could have been a drop-off. But Cuevas is convinced that this child is Delamar, and she said something in Spanish to when I was watching this, she said in Spanish that blood knows blood.
well, also because 6 years old, you still look like, even though it was an infant, you can still see, like, if it was 30 years later, you know what I mean? Then that would be hard to maybe recognize the person. But 6 years, yeah, I can see that you would go, that's my child.
Delamar is now 26, and she says, I have dimples and all my siblings have dimples. And that was the first giveaway to my mother. And her mother always would say, La sangre llama, which is blood calls. And she said she had an overwhelming sense that Delamar, or Aaliyah, as she's now being called, was her daughter. She was the right age to be her daughter. So Cuevas, being confident in her mother's intuition, she slyly nabs a strand of the child's hair and brings it to the police and asks them to conduct a DNA test.
This is when the Aaliyah is 6?
Yeah. I mean, Cheryl, I don't know if you believe in mother's intuition.
Oh, I totally do. I don't even have kids.
Many cases where women will say, like, you should never, ever discredit a woman's intuition or a mother's intuition.
No, I feel that way with my dog. So I can only imagine what it's like with the child. There is a movie called Angel, something Angel in the title, but it's with Numi Rapace, and I should wait till I have all the thoughts in my head before I start telling a story. But there is a movie like that. Oh, Numi Rapace, everybody will know. She's the original girl with the dragon tattoo. She did that whole series, not the Rooney Mara. I'm talking about the original one.
Oh.
She's, I think, Swedish. She was in Prometheus. And then the blonde woman from Dexter. Why I can't. Anyway, the movie is about Numi's character seeing this girl, and she's probably around 10 or something, and just knowing that that's her daughter. Everybody thinks she's nuts, and it turns out it is that they had stolen. This couple had the wife had stolen the baby.
Wow.
So I completely, getting back to your original question, yes, I completely believe in a mother's intuition.
Huh.
Totally.
Well, I don't know about female intuition or mother's intuition. What I do know is I know about tuition, because we have a kid in college.
No, let me tell you,
is very expensive. So I know that has nothing to do with intuition, but it reminded me of the word because sounds very similar.
Joy, if you hadn't seen one of your girls from infant to when they're 6, don't you think, and you saw them, don't you think you'd know that was them?
I don't know. I mean, you have to remember that my kids don't look at all alike.
No, it doesn't have to. It doesn't matter. Even you saw one of them.
Yeah, but Delamar said she looked like all of her siblings. You know,
the siblings of the family that wasn't biologically hers.
Her biological siblings, they all looked alike.
Okay, yeah. So that supports the theory that her biological mother would know who she is, right?
Well, so here's the thing that's so crazy. They actually did the DNA test, the police. So prior to the administration of the DNA test, Delamar has a distinct memory of the woman she believed to be her mother. Her name was Carolyn Correa, she sprayed some kind of substance in her mouth. And she later learned that the unknown substance was Correa's saliva. Because remember, in order to do the DNA test,
Oh
the
my
the
God.
police would have to come and say, we need to do a DNA test for your child. And they get the saliva from the mouth. So Carolyn Correa sprayed her own
Oh my
saliva into her
God.
mouth,
Wow.
right?
Wow.
Well, guess what? You know what the mom said, what Cuevas said, la sangre llama. She was absolutely right. The DNA test eventually confirmed that Delamar was the daughter of Cuevas, and for 6 years she had been living with Correa and her family in Willingsboro, New Jersey, just 15 miles away from her Philadelphia home.
Oh my
So
God.
here's where the story gets crazy. If you thought that part of the story wasn't crazy, Delamar decides that, and obviously she's not related. Well, she's not the child of Carolyn Cuevas, so she goes back to live with her
You mean
mother.
Korea? You mean Korea? She's not
Sorry,
the child of
Carolyn
Korea.
Correa. So she goes back to live with her mother, and Correa is taken into custody and charged with kidnapping, and she ultimately is convicted and sentenced to 30 years, per the Associated Press. So Delamar says at first it was really exciting about the national attention that the case garnered. She was on like a bunch of morning shows and she talks about it. She said all the cameras and then all these gifts, but then it became too much having to go into their home through the backyard because reporters would be camped out on the front yard. And there is a three episode Fremantle documentary called The Hand That Robbed the Cradle. And she tells her own story. And then she also talks about how she had a real identity crisis. Her family's reaction was, she's back, it's done, we have a happy ending. But she says she didn't know who to be because she's been Aaliyah for 6 years. And now she's living with a family she doesn't know.
Yeah. Wow.
So she said she tried to pick up her new family's mannerisms to make it seem like she'd never been kidnapped. But she was also mourning her old family because she said when she was a child, she felt like she had two moms. And it wasn't until she was 12 years old that the reality finally set in that she didn't have two moms. She had someone who had kidnapped her and pretended to be her mom, but her real mom was her birth mom. And
Wow.
so she really struggled. She said at one point she left her mother's home and moved in with her father, who had separated from Cuevas.
Oh my God. I did hear that.
Excuse me. But after a fight with her dad, she ended up in a group home when she was 15. For a long time, she said she felt unworthy, undeserving of certain things. But, and this is sad, by the age of 20, she was sick of feeling sorry for herself. By 20, I mean, you think about it, remember, she was put back with her family at 6. And at 20, I mean, think about how long it would take to just go through this identity crisis. She said she finally came to realize that not everybody's going to feel as bad for her as she does for herself. You have to accept it and do better for yourself. So basically, she had to move on. Anyway, she is married today, lives with her husband, Isaiah, and her 11-year-old stepson in Philadelphia. She still speaks with her father and mother multiple times a week. But the question still remains, why did Correa kidnap her? And did she have an accomplice? She says she doesn't feel like she needs to sit down and have that conversation with Correa because she learned a lot of things about Carolyn and how her mind works. And I don't know if it's going to be the truth. So you get the feeling like Carolyn Correa maybe had some problems telling the truth. She adds, there is no way she took me out of a 2-story home by herself. So you can tell she has formed her own beliefs about this whole case.
Wow, I wonder what's her name? The mother, Cuevas.
Cuevas.
I wonder what she had to say to Correa. I'm sure she had words with her. That's
Well,
her
she was
cousin.
sentenced to 30 years in prison. So you do wonder if, she was able to
She
like
went to
give
talk
her
to.
a piece of her mind or not.
I'm sure that's so messed up. Burned their house down, or part of it anyway. I mean, that's crazy. Why? I mean, it's crazy enough when it's a stranger's kid is abducted, but to do it to your own cousin, that's wow. But wow. Yeah,
I know.
Correa has to have some issues. For her to be bold enough to keep Delamar in the area that where she could possibly be seen by Cuevas, you know what I mean? Like,
I
you think
know,
he would
right?
hightail it out of there so that there'd never be any chance that they would
Right?
cross paths. But that's what I would do if I was abducting a child.
Well,
Oh,
anyway,
gosh.
that is the first story from TikTok, and I want to dig into now the second story. And I have to say, the second one is crazy. So hold on. So I'm on TikTok and I run across this TikTok user. Her handle is or name is the Authentic Alpha, and she features an interview with a guy on a bicycle who she asks him um she asks like, what is like a decision or something that you're trying to make. And he tells her that he's torn between staying in the United States or moving to Uzbekistan to meet a woman. He also says he's married. And he says his children have grown and moved out of the house, and he is trying to make this decision. So the people on TikTok do what they do. And that is a lot of times, if you're someone who is caught lying or someone who's catfishing or someone who is trying to live a double life, the people on TikTok are so good at finding these people. And what ends up happening is you've got all these young people and people who are watching these videos, and someone calls out that this guy looks like a man who has popped up in the news for another story. And so I'm going to go back to the other story. And that is, for several weeks, the family of avid kayaker Ryan Borgward braced for the likelihood that search divers were about to find his body in a Wisconsin lake. His kayak, fishing rod, wallet, and car keys were found at Green Lake on August 12th, the day he disappeared, and a life jacket floating in the water offered further evidence that his wife and 3 children had lost their husband and father. An investigation, however, it's determined that Borgward took out a $375,000 life insurance policy, faked his own death, and just vanished, possibly to Central Asia to join a woman with whom he had been communicating with online. We don't know where he is, but he is not in our lake, the Green Lake County Sheriff, Mark Poldal, told a media briefing as NBC News reported on Monday. It's really hard because they felt like the dad had drowned a day ago, and then they find out he hasn't. Poldal said the first indication was that something was not right came when his detectives discovered early in October that the name of the 44-year-old Watertown, Wisconsin resident was checked by authorities in Canada the day after he disappeared. And that led to a deeper dive in recent weeks into Borgward's affairs, including a forensic analysis of the hard drive of his laptop that revealed further evidence of careful planning. Guys, whatever you're looking at on your computer, I don't care if you clear out your history or delete your browsing history or your cookies. It's all in there. It's a map of everything you've touched or visited or Googled or searched.
Yep.
Among the surprise discoveries were that he received a second passport after taking out the life insurance policy in January, had attempted to transfer funds to an overseas bank account, had cleared his internet browser the day before his fishing trip. Additionally, investigators found Borgward had created a new email address and had been talking online to a woman in Uzbekistan. Remember a couple episodes ago when I talked about going to New York and my Uber driver from the airport from LaGuardia into Manhattan was from Uzbekistan?
Yeah.
It's so crazy that this is the second time that Uzbekistan's popped up in a month. But anyway, due to these discoveries of the new evidence, we were sure that Ryan was not in our lake, Poldal said, adding that the FBI and Department of Homeland Security were assisting in efforts to locate Borgward and anyone who might have helped him. He added, our goal is to identify any crimes that have been committed by any individuals who assisted with this crime. After Borgward's disappearance, volunteers joined law enforcement in spending weeks searching for him, scanning the lake from above with drones, while divers inspected its 237-foot depth for clues. Keith Cormacan of Bruce's Legacy, a nonprofit organization that specializes in water searches, said he spent about 4 weeks, spaced over 2 months, involved in the operation. It's a little tough to swallow because it required a lot of expense on this one, he said, as reported by ABC 7 News. That's the thing, Cheryl, is there's all these nonprofits and there's all these organizations that people have set up because they've lost family members and loved ones in mountain hiking, in deep sea rescue, in, wilderness tracking, in all these different ways. Because if you call the police because someone's gone missing, they don't stay out there for 2 months looking for your loved one or your family member. You have to call in these organizations like Bruce's Legacy, and they're nonprofits most of the time. And it's basically run and fueled by volunteers who will go out and search because they have, a vested interest in finding the missing person.
Well,
so
also
because the cost involved.
Yeah, because the law enforcement, they have so many cases. You can't expect them to stay on one case for so long. Like the Quentin Simon one, those are all volunteers looking through the landfill for his body. All volunteers.
Exactly. So at the news conference, the Washington Post reported that Poldal said Borgward's children, 2 sons in high school and a daughter in elementary school, were surprised to learn what their father had allegedly done. Borgward's wife, he said, had known for much longer that her husband had probably faked his own death and been cooperating with authorities. The sheriff remarked, I put a lot on her shoulders, and that is one strong lady. Ryan, so this was the message that they said on the press conference. Ryan, if you're viewing this, I plead that you contact us or contact your family. We understand that things can happen, but there's a family that wants their daddy back. The video. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. What was the time frame between the time he disappeared and somebody saw him on TikTok?
Well, the TikTok video, I don't know.
I mean, was it like years and years or?
Let me check. I just ran across the Authentic Alpha video, which, by the way, has had like over 12 million views or some. It's had so many views. It's not even funny. She's sitting on a boardwalk and she's holding a sign that says, ask me for free advice. And a guy on a bicycle has like a beanie cap on, and he says he wants to go to Uzbekistan and meet this woman.
It wasn't that long. It looked so August, right? He went missing, and then it says the case took a turn in October when investigators discovered that his name had been checked by border officials in Canada. So it wasn't that long. I thought it was one of those cases where it was like years and years and years had gone by, and then he pops up on TikTok.
No. And that video, by the way, has had 12.8 million views. So it's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. Anyway, the Green Lake County Sheriff's Office has posted this message on Facebook Wednesday night. We do not believe the TikTok video is Ryan. We are in contact with the interviewer. Thank you to all for alerting us of its existence. We have verified this is not Ryan by contacting people who know Ryan. But I got to tell you, it's kind of too it was it was posted 5 days ago on YouTube and TikTok. So it's almost too uncanny because he's talking about going to Uzbekistan
Yeah,
to
that's
be with a woman. And in my whole life until last month, I'd never met anyone from Uzbekistan. So it's not like a hotbed of tourist like travel destination,
right. Yeah. Wow.
right? So anyway, I think it's super interesting that they've said that they've released this statement.
Well, I just have to wonder why someone would leave. I can understand not wanting to be with your spouse, but then to just abandon your kids, you got to wonder about someone like that. Maybe they're better off. You know what I mean? Like, why would you just fake your death and not see or care about your kids anymore? That takes a special, and I mean special in a special way, kind of person.
Well, I went and looked at the posting on Facebook and it's all in caps. So it's funny. It's like they're shouting at someone. I don't know. But so the press conference about the missing kayaker was posted on November 8th. He went missing in August.
Right.
And then they posted this all caps. We don't believe it's him. But I have to say, like, all the comments are pretty funny. Someone says, all caps, just like a cop to escalate a situation when they should be actively attempting to de escalate. And someone said, ooh, I wonder how many times they got sent this in order for them to type in all caps. Someone else posts, stay calm and be nice. And
oh, God.
Someone left their cap lock on. Someone else posts, how the heck do you think he got to Canada? That's a long walk.
Oh, that's funny.
Someone said, well, it looks like him, though. Same nose, same smile, same guy. So I can tell that either they're trying to defuse the situation or I don't know. I'm not really sure, but he sure does look like the guy. So anyway, those are my two stories from TikTok. I got to tell you that not only is TikTok a huge time waster, it's also very, very entertaining.
I don't necessarily look at TikTok a lot, but I do look at YouTube shorts. And I got to tell you, man, I've gone to lay down in bed and I'm like, I'm going to watch a little bit of some shorts. And an hour and a half to 2 hours later, I'm like, okay, this is the last one.
Right.
Okay, this is the last one.
Right. Well, I got to tell you, one of the things I don't like about shorts that I like about TikTok is some of the videos are really long. Like we're talking about 10 minutes or 7 minutes, or the Instagram shorts tend to be 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds tops, but you rarely run into one that's 7-8 minutes, right? Because that's not a short. That's actually a YouTube video. So I do love that TikTok has that element. And then the other thing is, if you scroll past all the ads to buy shit, which is really hard because obviously I'm spending a lot of time actually buying shit because I get really sucked into that part of TikTok too. But one of the things that I will say about TikTok is there are genuine people, like, for example, I'm not going to shout out any names, but there's a woman who's 42 years old who talks about never having been in a relationship and wanting to be in a relationship. And she talks about going on her first date, and her video went viral because she's very vulnerable and very transparent. And she talks about her fear and her anxiety with going out on a date and meeting someone online and being fear of being judged and people saying things like, because she has gray hair and, just being honest, she's not in her 20s, she's not in her 30s, she's starting dating in her 40s. That's got to be hard. And also she's never been in a significant relationship in her life. Yeah, that's a very vulnerable place to be. And she met somebody and she's been dating him for 3 months. Everyone's like pulling for her. Everyone's behind her because, there are people, sure, there's plenty of trolls and haters out there, but there are also people who really want the best for people. There's a man on there that I stumbled on. His wife of many years passed away recently. And he very openly and without any disguise shares his grief. And it is palpable. I mean, he weeps. He is just distraught. And he's very honest about his grief and when it hits and how he doesn't know how he can go on every day without this person that he loved. And it's so real. It's just really, really interesting. So there is a lot of real stuff out there in between a lot of the like vapid, and commercialized and airbrushed and contrived and filtered crap. Because, boy, let me tell you, there's some filters out there that, I mean, Cheryl, you and I would look like supermodels. They'll take away your wrinkles. They'll take away your spots on your face. They'll take away any discoloration. They'll take away pimples. I mean, the filters are unreal. It's interesting to me. They'll show themselves with a filter sometimes, and then they'll remove the filter so you can see what they look like, and then they'll put the filter back. And I'll be honest, I didn't even know about the filters up until a little while ago. I was like, what? You mean you really don't look like that? But hey, whatever floats your boat. After all, like I said, some of it's real, some of it's not real, some of it's partly real. I guess you just have to drink the Kool-Aid, find the stuff that works for you, and then stick with it.
Right. Would you use a filter if you had a
No.
channel?
I'm past the filter. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Here's what the filter is for our age, Cheryl, and this is true. You know this. The filter is Botox and plastic surgery, facelifts, tummy tucks, blepharoplasty or whatever the hell it's called, where you lift the eyes. It's like when we talked about the Golden Bachelorette, it's like where they pull the skin up and you can see the telltale staples or the incision marks behind the ears or by the ears, because that's where they pull the skin from, and the hairline. I mean, and don't get it wrong. Like, I think it's great. Women can do whatever procedures they want to do, and men can do whatever procedures they want to do. What I do caution though is you can't be too torn up about it if you turn 60 and, half of your nose caves in or something looks funky, because it's not like you got a guidebook on how this shit's going to look when it, because you're still going to age. It doesn't matter if it happens today or 5 years from now or 10 years from now or 5 years before. You're going to age. We don't know what that aging process is going to look like because it looks different for everybody. The good news is when I'm 80 and you're 80 and someone else is 80 and my neighbor's 80 and my best friend from, Fresno's 80, we're all going to look 80. Right?
Yeah. I would be afraid to use any type of filter or whatever, because when somebody meets me in real life,
right,
or if I can't carry that filter around with me 24/7, I'm going to feel real bad about myself when I have to go out as myself and have people see me, when the curtains pull back and you find out that Oz is just a man behind the curtain.
And I have to say that, like, there is something to be said for aging gracefully, but that doesn't mean that everybody who ages does it gracefully, because sometimes maybe it doesn't work, like we don't, like we can't all look like Diane Keaton when we get older. We aren't all going to look like Mia Farrow. Those women look really, really, really nice. They look really beautiful. We can't all look like Martha Stewart. I don't know if any of those women have had work done or not. Like we're not all in that beautiful people category. Some of us were born with skin discoloration and we just left it that way. Some of us were born with a lot of freckles and we left it that way. Some of us were born with asymmetrical boobs and we left it that way. Some of us were born dispensation for wrinkles in our forehead and we left it that way. That's also aging gracefully. If I did something about it, I'm still also aging gracefully. There's nothing we can really do about it. You can come at it kicking or screaming, but we're all going to get old. I don't know about the filter. I don't know if there was a way to like do, the fun stuff. Like remember Zoom during the pandemic when everybody was doing like the doggy ears and the funny bunny face, and,
Yeah.
the panting dog. I think that would be funny to
Right.
like, put like a clown face on or, have a filter called Dolly Parton where all of a sudden I'm like this pinup blonde bombshell. I think that would be funny. But other than that, I mean, I figure that I don't really have anything to filter. What about you? Would you use you wouldn't use the filter you said because you wouldn't want to
No.
go in public and have people go, "Holy crap, you're
Crap,
old."
yeah. But yeah, what happened to you? No, I'd have to carry around my computer and hold it in front of my
Right.
face and have the filter on. No, I think aging gracefully is aging naturally. Whatever that looks like on you, that's aging gracefully to me.
Yeah.
I don't really mind if people want to do all kinds of cosmetic surgery, but I do admire so much the people that don't just they just accept themselves at every age.
It's tricky because I do caution like the young people who are in their teens, late teens, 20s, 30s. If you're gonna start those procedures, maybe wait until you're a little older and you see what's gonna happen. I feel like
Right,
we're
yeah.
seeing more frequently young men and women getting procedures younger and younger and younger. And that's a little bit concerning to me because if you are not happy with what you look like or you want to change your appearance at a very young age, I just feel like you're going to end up looking like the Catwoman, or like,
Hmm.
or it's going to turn into a serious, like, kind of Frankenstein situation. But
Yeah,
who knows? I mean, maybe people can't afford that. Because it's
yeah.
also very expensive.
Right, that's the other thing. If you guys haven't seen Death Becomes Her, you need to see that movie.
Yeah, it's great. It's
Hmm.
really, really good. And you know what? Who knew that they were going to like, hit that nail on the head so many years
Right?
later?
Yeah,
Right?
that was way before,
Oh, yeah.
social media and filters and all that stuff. They were already making a statement back then when they made that movie. And now to me, it's so relevant. That
Yep.
movie may be old, but it's so relevant.
Well, I am going to keep my ear on the pulse of TikTok and I am going to let you guys know if I find out any updates on the Authentic Alphas video, this situation with Borgwart's disappearance, and what he's doing rattling around Uzbekistan. And also, I am going to yeah, give any updates about this Delamar situation if I stumble on any. Also, I'm so interested to see if this Borgward guy pops up on anyone else's videos because, boy, everybody's got a camera and everybody knows how to use it. Anyhow, I do think that what he did to his family was a crime because he's got 2 kids in high school and a kid in elementary school and his wife. They're just kind of hanging out there to dry, wondering what's going on with their
Right.
husband and father. Hopefully, he's got enough money to get back from Uzbekistan. No. If you are not on TikTok, you are probably not wasting as much time as I am. And I will tell you that the time wasting sometimes feels like a crime. But you know what else is a crime?
What's that, Joy?
That we are out of time.
That is a crime. Well, thank you for listening, everyone, and don't complicate your day. All creativity, commentary, and opinions in this podcast belong to Cheryl and Joy. Music composed and mixed by Gabe McKeon. Logo and merch managed by Cheryl Yamaguchi. Podcast editing, advertising, and social media managed by Joy McKeon. Legal representation provided by John Bojezic. Please like, subscribe, follow, and listen. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Audible.com, Amazon Music, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. And remember, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok, or you can email us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com.
Bye, fishes.